This is Robert Craig. I'm back again to pick up where I left off last time, and we were in the book of Acts and had come to the end of Acts 22. Paul had returned to Rome. He'd been arrested. He's now, let me rephrase that. Paul had returned to Jerusalem, and he had been arrested by the Roman authorities, and there was a riot concerning him in the temple, and now he has asked for this chance to defend himself to the crowd, and that didn't go too well. So now the Roman captain of the guard wants to find out a little bit about the trouble, so he brings Paul out, calls for the elders of the temple to come and plead their case against him so he'll know what to do with this man. He knows that they've made him very upset. Let's go to chapter 23 of Acts and verse 1. And by the way, I'm going to be reading from this Bible right here, King James Version. In verse 1, and Paul, earnestly beholding the council, said, Men and brethren, I have lived in all good conscience before God until this day. And the high priest Ananias commanded them that stood by to smite him on the mouth. Maybe that's where we get that old expression, somebody slapped that guy. Verse 3, Then said Paul unto him, God shall smite thee, thou whited wall. Or sittest thou to judge me after the law, and commandest me to be smitten contrary to the law? What did they mean? What kind of an insult was that to call a man a whited wall? I remember from the Gospels that Jesus also referred to some people being, they were experts in the law and so forth, and he referred to them as being like unto whited sepulchres. Well, I think, that is, this is my understanding, we're talking about a stone edifice or structure, whether it's a tomb or whether it's just a wall. The most usual way that things like this gets whited will be from birds habitually perching there. And, maybe you get the picture. If you don't, have somebody explain it to you. We're talking about histoplasmosis city here. Anyways, verse 4, And they that stood by said, Revilest thou God's high priest? Then said Paul, I wist not, brethren, that he was the high priest, for it is written, Thou shalt not speak evil of the ruler of thy people. But when Paul perceived that the one part were Sadducees and the other Pharisees, he cried out in the council, Men and brethren, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee, of the hope and resurrection of the dead. I am called in question. And when he had so said, there arose a dissension between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the multitude was divided. See, Paul is playing the old divide and conquer card here. Verse 8, For the Sadducees say that there's no resurrection, neither angel nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess both. And there arose a great cry, and the scribes that were of the Pharisees' part arose and strove, saying, We find no evil in this man, but if a spirit or an angel hath spoken to him, let us not fight against God. And when there arose a great dissension, the chief captain, fearing lest Paul should have been pulled in pieces of them, commanded the soldiers to go down and to take him by force from among them and bring him into the castle. And the night following, the Lord stood by him and said, Be of good cheer, Paul, for as thou hast testified of me in Jerusalem, so must thou also bear witness also at Rome. So there's that word must again. This is something that is going to happen because God has said it's going to happen. It can't not happen now. Verse 12, and when it was day, certain of the Jews banded together and bound themselves under a curse, saying that they would neither eat nor drink till they had killed Paul. And they were more than 40, which had made this conspiracy. And they came to the chief priests and elders and said, We have bound ourselves under a great curse, that we will eat nothing until we have slain Paul. Now therefore ye with the council signify to the chief captain that he bring him down unto you tomorrow, as though ye would inquire something more perfectly concerning him. And we, or ever he come near, are ready to kill him. And when Paul's sister's son heard of their lying in wait, he went and entered into the castle and told Paul. And Paul called one of the centurions unto him and said, Bring this young man unto the chief captain, for he hath a certain thing to tell him. So he took him and brought him to the chief captain and said, Paul the prisoner called me unto him and prayed me to bring this young man unto thee, who hath something to say unto thee. Then the chief captain took him by the hand and went with him aside privately and asked him, What is that thou hast to tell me? And he said, The Jews have agreed to desire thee that thou wouldest bring down Paul tomorrow into the council, as though they would inquire something of him more perfectly. But do not thou yield unto them, for there lie in wait for him more than 40 men, which have bound themselves with an oath, and with an oath, that they will neither eat nor drink till they have killed him. Now they are ready, looking for a promise from thee. So the chief captain then let the young man depart, and charged him, See thou tell no man that thou hast shown these things to me. And he called unto him 2 centurions, saying, Make ready 200 soldiers to go to Caesarea, and horsemen 70, spearmen 200, at the 3rd hour of the night. And provide them beasts, that they may set Paul on, and bring him safely unto Felix the governor. And he wrote a letter after this manner: Claudius Lysias, unto the most excellent governor Felix, sendeth greeting. This man was taken of the Jews, and should have been killed of them. Then came I with an army and rescued him, having understood that he was a Roman. And when I would have known the cause wherefore they accused him, I brought him forth into their council, whom I perceived to be accused of questions of their law, but having nothing laid to his charge, worthy of death or of bonds. And when it was told me how that the Jews laid wait for the man, I sent straightway to thee, and gave commandment to his accusers also, to say before thee what they had against him. Farewell. Then the soldiers, as it was commanded them, took Paul and brought him by night to Antipatris. On the morrow they left the horsemen to go with him, and returned to the castle, who, when they came to Caesarea and delivered the epistle to the governor, presented Paul also before him. And when the governor had read the letter, he asked of what province he was. And when he understood that he was of Cilicia, I will hear thee, said he, when thine accusers are also come. And he commanded him to be kept in Herod's judgment hall. So we see that Paul received a change of venue here. And we also see that when Claudius Lysias wrote this letter, he did a little bit of spin doctrine on that, discovering that he was a Roman. He leaves out the part where he was about to beat him. That's understandable. Chapter 24. And after 5 days, Ananias the high priest descended with the elders. Now, why do we say they descended? Remember, when you're based in Jerusalem and you're a Jew, anybody coming to Jerusalem is going up. Anybody leaving Jerusalem or going away from it is going down. So he descended with the elders and with a certain orator named Tertullus, who informed the governor against Paul. And when he was called forth, Tertullus began to accuse him, saying, seeing that by thee we enjoy great quietness, and that very worthy deeds are done unto this nation by thy providence, we accept it always, and in all places, most noble Felix, with all thankfulness, notwithstanding that I be not further tedious unto thee, I pray thee that thou wouldest hear us of thy clemency a few words. For we have found this man a pestilent fellow, and a mover of sedition among all the Jews throughout the world, and a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes, who also hath gone about to profane the temple, whom we took and would have judged according to our law. But the chief captain Lysias came among us, and with great violence took him away out of our hands, commanding his accusers to come unto thee, by examining of whom thyself mayest take knowledge of all these things whereof we accuse him. And the Jews also assented, saying that these things were so. Then Paul, after that the governor had beckoned unto him to speak, answered, forasmuch as I know that thou hast been of many years a judge unto this nation, I do the more carefully answer for myself, because that thou mayest understand that there are yet but 12 days since I went up to Jerusalem for to worship, and they neither found me in the temple disputing with any man, neither raising up the people, neither in the synagogues nor in the city, neither can they prove these things whereof they now accuse me. But this I confess unto thee, that after the way which they call heresy, so worship I, the God of my fathers, believing all things which are written in the law and in the prophets, and have hope toward God, which they themselves also allow, that there shall be a resurrection of the dead, both of the just and the unjust. And herein do I exercise myself, to have always a conscience void of offense toward God and toward men. Now after many years I came to bring alms to my nation, and offerings, whereupon certain Jews from Asia found me purified in the temple, neither with multitude nor with tumult, who ought to have been here before thee, and object if they had aught against me. Or else let these same here say, if they have found any evil doing in me, while I stood before the council, except it be for this one voice, that I cried standing among them, touching the resurrection of the dead, I am called in question by you this day. It wasn't because he believed in the resurrection, strictly speaking. That's why he admits he might have a flaw here in what he did. He was there for preaching Jesus Christ to the Gentiles. But that's what he said anyway, and he admits it here. Verse 22, and when Felix heard these things, having more perfect knowledge of that way, he deferred them and said, when Lysias the chief captain shall come down, I will know the uttermost of your matter. And he commanded a centurion to keep Paul and to let him have liberty, and that he should forbid none of his acquaintance to minister or come unto him. And after certain days, when Felix came with his wife Drusilla, which was a Jewess, he sent for Paul and heard him concerning the faith in Christ. And as he reasoned of righteousness, temperance, and judgment to come, Felix trembled and answered, go thy way for this time. When I have a convenient season, I will call for thee. He hoped also that money should have been given him of Paul, that he might loose him. Wherefore he sent for him the oftener, and communed with him. But after 2 years, Porcius Festus came into Felix's room, and Felix, willing to show the Jews a pleasure, left Paul bound. So he let his term of office expire without taking any action on this case. And next time we'll pick up in verse 25, and we will see the case against Paul proceed and how it went. And may the Lord bless this reading of his Holy Scripture. I thank you for watching, and I hope you'll come back and join me next time.